Still, there's about 300 people waiting to get in, and yes, a lot of them are wearing red to support the RCMP. He was able to bill tens of thousands of dollars to the taxpayer in food, travel, leisure activities. And the other leaders did such a good job of portraying Hudak as this person who's going to end the way of life as you know it. And as you said before, this does not include the 20 or so pending charges. You have the kitchen, you have the living room, you have the master bedroom. This is actually a road. You can see where it gets cut off right over here. If you can look behind me, you can see this body of water. That's not a lake.
Today it holds the hearts of all Canadians, and many are going to be crowding the area where you're at this hour.
Karen's, the numbers tell that story. 2,000 uniformed men and women attending the visitation yesterday. The RCMP says they expect thousands to pack Service Place behind me. And like you said, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Premier Jim Prentice, all of the big heavy hitters will be in attendance today. We're also going to have Nolan Kraus, the mayor of St. Albert. He's been very vocal, saying how this has been a tragedy for his community.
Tell us more about that hockey coach, a resource officer at an elementary school. So really tied into his community, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. A little under a decade ago, he moved from the Atlantic to here. He was a paramedic back there. He became an RCMP officer, and he and his wife say that they loved the RCMP detachment of St. Albert to death. He was a big part of this community, and you could see it. There's actually white ribbons tied to the trees along the parade route. We saw gifts and donations at the RCMP detachment.
And that Accountability Act, Josh, is supposed to be a pretty big one in the next 100 days.
Well, absolutely. Actually, at this AGM, their annual general meeting in Banff this past weekend, Prentice admitted that voters had given them a second chance, but that they had a lot of work to do in proving that they had changed as a party. This Accountability Act, that's supposed to be the answer to that problem. Ending sweetheart deals for former staffers, no more sole source contracts, and also a cooling off period from when people leave government and then go to a lobbying arm. That's something that Prentice says is going to restore the trust of the government in Albertans, and actually something that Jonathan Dennis outlined this morning in lieu of the throne speech. Take a listen.
For Chris Boudreau, wandering thoughts don't wander for long.
When I'm by myself and it's nighttime and the stars are out, I do a lot of thinking.
Of how things could have ended differently.
And the worst part is when I think about what Damien would have gone through in his last moments.
For a son lost in a foreign land.
Wish he would come home every day.
For a cause that took his life.
But I guess that can't happen.
This past winter, Boudreau received the news. Her 22-year-old son Damien had died, fighting as a jihadist in Syria. His story is just one of a growing tale of young Canadians seduced by radical Islam.
When Damien converted to Islam at age 17, his mother says it was good for the troubled teen. It gave him peace and a sense of purpose. But only 3 years later, everything had changed. He was attending a new mosque and a radical study group here in downtown Calgary, many of whose members would leave their families and also go overseas to fight.
Deep in Red Deer River country, even under the blanket of a long Alberta winter.
Just on the side hill over here.
You can still find
There's 6 of them there.
things that capture the imagination.
There's a young one in the back there.
A short walk up the hill,
Freezing.
and you see them, Alberta's wild horses. They dot the landscape, eating what they can,
But even up there, they have to paw so hard, eh?
caring for their young.
They're not too worried.
A wild species,
Oh, is he lifting his head now?
entirely their own.
Wish the stallion would look at us. The way that they have evolved to survive and, in this environment here, they captured my heart a while ago, and they still have it.
No one can argue these horses of the Alberta prairies are not a sight to see. But according to the government, this is a case of too much of a good thing. Murray Langard and 2 others would deny Ren freedom, a 33-year veteran of the Regina Police Force who is now retired. Langard says he doesn't remember Ren specifically. He did hundreds of hearings. But on the language used, citing a first conviction for assault at age 15, charged for numerous crimes involving violent weapons, and ingrained attitudes, values, and beliefs that support crimes, Langard says this was serious.
We would have been very convinced that he was a danger, or it wouldn't have been written like that. Just pointing out that his lack of responsibility, and not only that, it's been growing over the years.
What is the Crown's position then, please, on release?
Your Worship, we have agreed on a joint release in the amount of $4,500.
In September 2014, Wren would get bail with 2 pending cases involving weapons and 61 convictions to his name. The Crown making no argument to keep him behind bars. It would be the last time police would have Wren until the shooting just 2 weeks ago. Langard says he can't comment on the bail decision. He doesn't know the facts, just what he saw all those years ago.
But he's a dangerous man, yeah. At that time. Like what happened since then, I don't know.
Now we do. I'm Joshua Skurnik, and this is a Sun News Special Report.